I'm Josh.
I'm Coach Nrgy.
I'm Aphrodite.
All right. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about codependent relationships and how those relationships kind of get started. So when we talk about codependent relationships, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is one party doing a lot more for the other party than they, I guess, technically should do. And the other party is just kind of going with it. Like they just, I guess it's the whole premise of being taken care of, per se. And in those relationships, to me, when I think about those types of relationships, that has to be very tiresome to a certain degree to actually just kind of, how do I put this in a nice way? I guess take care of another adult. You know, like it has to kind of work. But that's the thing. And this is a difference though, because if a person is like have like health conditions or something like that, that's more understandable. Like I get that part. That there's nothing wrong with that part. But if it's on the other side of the equation where you have a totally capable person that has all their faculties and functions and they can just do what they need to do, but they just choose not to, then that's when you just really have to question certain things. Like you have to really question certain points in your life and really have to consider, is this for me? You know, like is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And then you also have to consider, how did this start? Right? Like how do we get here? So when we talk about like the whole how do we get here part, do you think that it starts off like the whole, I guess the codependency portion of it starts off, I guess it starts, I know it starts off in the beginning, but I'm just trying to figure out how do we just keep going with it? You know, like how, if you see it going that way, how do people keep going with that? Is it just because you might just love that person or just comfortable? Like, how do people just continue to go with that if they know that the person may be codependent?
I agree. Yeah. With the two things that you mentioned, loving that person and then being comfortable in that situation or being comfortable with that person or the lifestyle that the two of you have come to create between each other.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm just trying to figure out, going with something like that, like I said earlier, you got to be tiresome to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I guess there's, once you discover that you're in a situation like that, I'm assuming there's a lot of follow-up conversations, right? Like, you know, when does this change? How can we fix this type stuff, right? I'm pretty sure this conversation is different for women than it is for me. I need you to know that. It's probably different. Okay? I think this conversation is very different. Because,
how is it from a man?
You have to address it at a particular angle. You know, like you can't. Sometimes you might not be able to go straight on with a conversation like that.
Why?
Because it may not turn out the way that you wanted to turn out. It won't.
Okay, so how would you address it? Like, what would be the angle?
Well, I would start off with time and place is everything. You know, to have a conversation about, you know, a person may or may not be doing enough. You know, you gotta have a good time and place for that type of conversation, right? Because some people may not take that well, because depending on the format of the relationship, they may think that they doing everything they need to be doing. Like they may think that everything's like perfect because of the fact that things are running so smoothly. But the reason why things are running so smoothly is because that other person is functioning at a very high level. Like they're functioning at a very high level and they tired. That's why they very tired, okay? So I would say from, I guess, my standpoint, trying to have a conversation like that is to lay out all the facts. Like, fact. You go straight down to factual life, right? And just start really talking about some of the things that you have been seeing that are really piling up on your plate. Because I think that if a person can't really, I guess, pinpoint exactly what you're talking about, they're just going to be making up their own version of that story. So, 1, time and place. 2, stick with the facts. Okay? Stick to the facts the whole time about it. That's how I would address it, right? Now, whether the conversation is going to go the way that I would hope it to go after that, right? Hopefully. But that's the difference, though. Like, I'm not sure from you guys' standpoint how you address a conversation like that when you got a fully capable man sitting on your couch and stuff like that, and you doing, let's just put it out, 85% of some stuff around there, and he doing about 15 at that point. So how do you address that, right? You go walk up to the TV, cut the TV off. Hey, we need to talk. Like, just snatch the remote. Like, this.
I don't know. We can get to 85.
Turn off the Call of Duty. What we do?
Who? How you get to 85? That's a lot.
It is.
You just fall into 85?
No, I mean, you know, if a person is at 85, they crept up there over the years. You know what I'm saying? Like it probably started off at, you know, let's make it reason, 35, right? And then it just kept just kind of climbing over the years. And now we at 85, right? And then you scratching your head like, okay, now something really wrong now, okay?
I probably can't relate in like a relationship, marriage type of codependency, but as a friendship type of codependency, I can relate.
Okay.
And it does creep up on you. You know, you like, oh, you know, this don't seem this don't seem balanced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not balanced. It's draining because the person is always pulling. If you're a giver, then you automatically giving because that's just part of your nature, your character. Sometimes you're not realizing that you feed it into the codependency because a lot of times that's what happens. You don't understand that you feed into the codependency till you probably don't went off or said some choice words and did some choice things that probably went so choice at the wall. So you don't realize it. You know, I can see that's the way I can relate to it. Yeah, and when you come to your senses, then, you know, it might not be codependency no more. Y'all probably not gonna be friends, husband, wife, whatever, you know, depending on the situation. But like, to even for a person to even become codependent on people, like they have to have some type of low self-esteem, something going on. So maybe some personal trauma, maybe some domestic violence in their life from their past. It's some things. And sometimes with codependency, you don't realize even yourself, even though you might be the higher functioning person, that you got something that related to them, but then to become codependent.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you think that maybe, I think like you're saying, being a people pleaser pushes people to codependency? Like if you're a people pleaser and you like doing things for others, could that subsequently turn a person into a codependent person because they're used to a person doing, you know, everything for them and stuff like that? Do you think that could possibly happen?
I can see that happening. You know, I think it's a lot of factors that turns people into like all of a sudden being into a codependent situations. You know, it could be the attraction of your character and just who you are. You know, like you said, a people pleaser. So it could just be that attracted them. And they became very dependent on that because they need whatever you got that you're, you know, pursuing, that you distributing out. And because you are who you are, if you're a people pleaser, you might even recognize that that's the only thing that they depend upon is you pleasing them. You know, you see it as you just being yourself. They see it as I'm getting what I want. I'm be dependent upon them to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Nrgy, what you think?
You didn't even have to say my name. As soon as your head is like this.
I see your eyes. I see it like you go lock in.
As soon as his head is like this, I already know. Oh, it's my turn.
Oh, it is. You better jump in there.
Right. So I agree. Yeah, over time, if someone is with a people pleaser, then yeah, it can create this sense of, okay, well, this is what I can start expecting. And so they start depending on it. So yeah, I agree with everything that Aphrodite was saying as well. And to answer your question, yep, it can create it.
But how would you address that though? Right. So if you hypothetically were in a situation where this person was at 85, I know Aphrodite don't like the 85, but at the 85, right?
Because by that time they over the top, like that's too much.
How would you address it? Like,
it wouldn't even get 85 for Nrgy.
Sure.
Wait, so if I'm giving the 85 or the person I'm with is giving the 85?
No, the person, yeah.
Like they giving 15 and you giving 85.
Oh. Is that how you were just describing it, Josh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes. So I've been in that situation. Hate to say it, but yeah, I've been in that situation, so I can speak from personal experience. For me, I love helping. I love seeing someone not just kind of wade in the water on their potential, but I like to help people achieve what the potential could be. That's kind of there. We see it, you know, kind of far out in the water. I'm like, come on, let's figure it out. Let's do it. To the point to where I've helped people start their business. I've helped and have kind of pushed mine to the side in order to get theirs started. Or there was another situation where their business was kind of being run down, and I helped them kind of rejuvenate it and to pick it back up again at the sacrifice or detriment of me pushing my business to the side. It's something that I did have to work on. It's something that I had to say, okay, what is it about me that I'm willing to stop everything that I have going on in order to help my significant other with what they have going on? And so I had to learn the balance of it. I had to learn how not to let it be so different in the scales and in the weight of where it's now when I do go into relationships, it's more evenly balanced as opposed to it being more one-sided. At the time, I didn't realize that it was partial and enablement. Also, just it wasn't mutually beneficial. So back then, having been in that relationship or that type of situation, I was that person and it burned me out. Yeah, it was definitely draining, and I had to rebuild, especially once the relationship ended. I had to kind of rebuild my clientele, rebuild that momentum that I initially had going on. And I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this. For me, it was, I realized it after I did my own self-work, my own personal development work, my own coaching and all of that. I realized that it was a sense of wanting to be needed. And so that's where, for me, that's why self-awareness is so important. If we are aware of ourselves, we're aware of why we do the things that we do, why we have certain behaviors within relationships, then that allows us to be open, be mindful, and then we can start putting some practices into place to where it becomes healthy for both sides. So once I went through that journey of working on myself and understanding the sense of why I felt I needed to be needed, now I know, okay, that's not how I have to be in a relationship in order to be happy or in order to keep someone around. I don't have to just keep, running my physical body into the ground because I want to make sure that this is done for them first thing in the morning. I'm taking all the calls, or I'm pushing out the invoices for them, or I'm even in the vehicle, the work vehicle, going to the job sites and helping them physically climb the ladder and do physical work as well. And I was like, I don't have to do this. So relearning who I am is what helped me to get out of that unhealthy type of balance, and to why I am who I am today, which is just someone who's still very giving, very loving, very nurturing, but it's mutually beneficial now. So,
yeah.
Yep.
So when you was talking about that, especially initially, was it hard to say, like out loud? Like, was it hard to say? Because you was like, was it hard to say, like initially? Like,
hard to say no, because most people learn from another person being able to speak from experience. My whole life is just examples, like in order for me to help somebody else, that's why I feel I've gone through a lot of the things that I've gone through in order to help other people. So for me, that was like, okay, where do I start? How do I,
how do you articulate it or whatever?
Within time constraints and not, giving us long soliloquy. So that was what that was. But I don't mind talking about it.
I just want to make sure now, okay? Like, because your version of it sounds very similar to a small situation that I went through back in my days back then and stuff like that, where I had a relationship like that too. I did. And I felt like at that point in my life, I felt like I wouldn't say I created the codependency per se, but I did create it. That like I did. Like I did and I didn't, if that makes sense. Okay. It makes sense to me. But but I would say I accepted certain things that in hindsight I shouldn't have accepted. Which means that I saw the signs that a person may be a certain way, but I overrode that thought, right? And it turned into that. Yeah, that's kind of in my version what ended up happening. Because a lot of times in the forefront, when you start like talking to a person and just being around that person or whatever, you kind of do see certain like little triggers or little things that person does that might end up being that way. But sometimes in your mind, you override it. Like you override that part and you try to rationalize it and just call it something else, right? And then it ends up turning into a situation where that person, turn into that codependency thing. But best way I can tell people is watch for the signs, okay? Especially initially, watch the signs. You have to just try not to, I guess, allow yourself to like start rationalizing, I guess other people's like the way that they move and the way that they do certain things. Just try not to really rationalize that, because again, at the end of the day, you have to know if this is something that you're going to be comfortable with and that's something that you're going to accept. Because if you choose to accept certain things like that, it can turn into something else. Like, that's the thing.
Right.
Most people don't look at the end part of it. Like what it can turn into. Life lesson. Life lessons. Life lessons. But I think that that's kind of the summary of it. Is there like real ways of, I guess, not really avoiding codependent relationships, but is there a way to, I guess, identify them before it turns codependent? Like, is that like such a thing to do that?
I think it is. And one of the things I like about what Nrgy said is knowing yourself first, right? So she understood who she was when she did her self-work. And when you do your self-work and you know who you are, you do recognize, and you ain't in denial about things of who you are and how you operate, you do recognize the signs. Like even with me now and with friendships, relationships, or whatever ship it is, I understand the role that I play, right? And I understand what I bring. I understand what I can take away. I get who I am. And so I can relate to Nrgy, understanding who you are, because it's very important of knowing who you are in order to operate effectively and efficiently in the relationship that you're in. And that's why she was able to, her next relationship, she able to find that balance. Whatever that balance is, because she know what she brings or she know what she gonna take away. And even what you said about not ignoring the signals, like don't ignore them. Because that's why we end up with the 85%.
That's definite. And
we're in overload because we done ignored the stuff or, and stuff like that. So no, it is ways you can recognize it before you see it.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yep. I would also say to add 100% it starts with the individual person. And with that, I will add learning and knowing what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like and sounds like. So therefore, when you are in a relationship and you start to see where the tides are kind of turning, you can immediately say, no, that's not right. Or, there's something off with this. Let me go ahead and address it now. As opposed to waiting. And then over time, that's when that 35% starts creeping up to 85. But to know it, to be able to do something about it or to notice those signs, you have to know what a healthy relationship looks like. So therefore, when it starts turning in the opposite direction, then you can identify it.
Yeah, you're right. Those are both good points. And I think on those 2 points is a good way to end this episode.
Hey.
Adding perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
One thing I learned, I can't want it more than the other person. I'm Coach Nrgy.
And I'm Aphrodite.
And we out.